I was the narrative designer on Agent Intercept. So
Oh,
I
cool.
did the overall story of the game, the flow and premise of every level, the background world building, also kind of the vision holder for the game. So really making sure everybody was aligned on like what the game looked like and what it felt like, and just keep all of our work consistent. And also just the one pushing us to always crank it up to 11 at every possible point and make it the most ridiculous experience we could do.
Agent incoming.
How far are you in it, by the way?
I finished the first chapter. The first chapter,
Okay.
right? The first
All right.
5 levels or something.
The first chapter is solid, but the first level of chapter 2 is my favorite level in the whole game. So
Okay.
keep playing it.
Yeah, I finished that last night because I've been playing it slowly. I feel like I always get codes for games like the week of or right before, and this one came so early. I'm like, I have time, so I started slowly, and now it's like next week already. It comes out.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. And at chapter 2, like the level 1 is a great one for like streaming and recording as well. There's some really great moments in that one. So
Okay,
I'm
cool.
excited. You're getting to the best part of the game.
Yeah, no, I love the characters are really. I'm happy to talk to you because I had questions about like the story and everything.
Yeah, please.
But I guess I know that PikPok started with a lot of mobile games. Is this your first like big console PC game? I know there's some others, but this feels like a big one.
Yeah, it is. We've done a little bit of work on that before, and the company actually a long time ago started with console games as well. So oh no, I forget the name. I'm getting it wrong. There's a rugby game, Rugby League Challenge or something that we worked on. So it's kind of a return to form for us. But in the modern era of PikPok, since we pivoted to mobile games, yeah, it's our first big release on console in a while. So we're super excited about that. Obviously, a lot of good learning to make it happen, and a lot of hard work on the team to make it happen. And it was exciting to work with the new generations as well, because everybody was like all in on trying to actually make the graphic settings worth it and like make sure that the visuals would pop in 4K or 120 FPS. So that was really cool.
I've been playing on my PS5 and it looks really good.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
When I got the first email about it, it was just like I think it was like the design, the colors and stuff. I was like, this just looks fun, and it reminds me of Spy Hunter and like games like that.
That's where it actually started from. We had an old pitch that was literally going to be a remake of Spy Hunter, and that didn't end up going forward, but we kind of liked the IP enough, and we like the overall idea, including that retro bright, retro futuristic kind of like bleeding edge tech, but with that kind of 60s lifestyle vibe on it. We really liked it, and so we decided to run with it as an original IP. But Spy Hunter was definitely like an influence all the way through. The second Nintendo game I ever played, by the way, Spy Hunter was the second video game I ever owned. I was really excited to work on the game because I was like, yeah, this was like I had Mario and then Spy Hunter when we first bought our Nintendo when I was a kid.
That's cool. And then I guess I see like mobile game type influences in the game, but it also like sometimes you'll play a game on Switch and you're like, this just feels like it should be a mobile game or it would work on both. This feels like you translated that to console and kind of added more to it and built more on that.
Thanks. Mobile is our main experience, of course, but yeah, we really wanted to pull out all the stops for this one. But we also had an overall ethics that simple controls were good, because if we didn't want it to be boring by any means, but by kind of abstracting the physics to keep that action movie logic, and by simplifying the controls, then number one, we thought we could focus more on the high score chasing on that side. Really hitting those combos, getting all the point collects, figuring out all the stunts you can do. Like if you actually go over a ramp and boost and then fire a missile while in midair and then land on an enemy, you get all these combos to add. So if we kept the controls simple, we could really make that high score chasing really tight. And then also like the set pieces were ridiculous, and we really wanted people to just enjoy things like the giant helicopter battle and stuff, and be able to actually like watch and enjoy all the crazy things going on and those transformation moments and such.
Because when I started, I was like, oh, I'm not actually like driving the car doing the acceleration and stuff, but then I was doing like, as you learn more and more, it's like, oh, I'm doing enough, and get to enjoy. Yeah, it's true, you get to enjoy more what's going on. If not, you'd be totally like trying to figure out what to do. And
Yeah,
It'd be too
that
much.
that was our philosophy, is like, focus on, if you're going for the story mode, we really want you to focus on the story and the ridiculous set pieces and those high energy moments and be all in. And if you're playing the, score chase modes and stuff, that you could really focus on that skill value of keeping your combo together versus, worrying about too many complex controls.
hmm Um, and then I like, yeah, the story. It just has like really fun characters, and I like that it's all fully voice acted, which is cool.
Thanks.
There's some games. I forgot what game I was playing first. Triangle Strategy, the demo.
Oh yeah.
A little,
I've heard good things.
yeah, just a little, but it's a lot. Like everything's voiced, and that's super cool. And I played a game that's kind of like that, but only the first words were voiced, or like they'd make more noise, like
Oh
huh and
yeah, they have the
stuff.
little emotes.
And then I
Yeah.
started noticing that more because I was playing the other game before. But
Yeah.
then in this game, like as you're driving, the agents come up and say stuff, or like people are always talking, so it's a lot of fun.
Agent, no time for pleasantries. I'm patching you into the secure line to our double agent.
You have the agent here? Good. Nice to have another person I can trust. Here's what I found.
Yeah, we did that for 3 reasons. One was, we did believe in the story. We did think that the story was cool. Like, it's really over the top and it's ridiculous and it doesn't take itself seriously, but we tried to make it as delightful as possible. Like, I was always like, when I was writing it, I was always like, either what is the greatest, funnest, most ridiculous action movie trope that could happen right now? Let's do that. Or what is the greatest, silliest, most ridiculous action movie trope we could do right now? Let's do something one step more ridiculous than that.
Yeah.
And then but again, we tried to actually like make the plot make sense and make the character motivations make sense and make the characters complex. Like, they are these archetypes, you're a nerdy gadget guy and you're, serious leader, but we tried to layer them. So HQ wasn't just the hardcore leader, like she really cared about you. And, Torpair wasn't just the awkward nerd. He was actually kind of funny and confident. To try and have a villain who is over the top and monologuing, but also like has a reason for doing what she's doing. So we wanted to really carry the story and the characters. There's also the action thing, right? There's so much going on in that game that like you're just not going to be able to read text or pick up on subtle cues. So like having the really strong voices in there really helped focus on the action. And then also, the more we made the game, the more we really came to like the characters. And so, having their vehicles in there with you, like it was really important to give them an identity if they're going to be driving alongside and fighting alongside you, which happens more and more as you play the game. The characters, get in vehicles and come alongside you more and more in the later chapters and the side missions. So it's like, if they're going to be there, we really need to give them an identity and bring their personality out.
Yeah. Well, even I guess most nights, like me and my girlfriend will eat dinner, watch some shows, and then I'll start playing games, and she falls asleep on the couch. And I feel like she was falling asleep one time, and I was playing this, and she like even laughed at something that funny that they said.
Excellent.
Like
that makes me so happy. That is a huge compliment, man. Thank you. Yeah, that was the one thing I was always driving people. Like, we had a lot of like good collaborative discussions about, what should we do, what can we do to make the best. And the thing I always came back to, I mean, we had our experience pillars and our vision, but my oversimplified one was it can't be boring. There can't be any boring moments.
So it feels like a mix of like James Bond and Austin Powers to me.
Yeah. I'm glad you're picking up on the humor. Like, it was fun too, because in the voice acting sessions, and that was really, really difficult because, we knew they had to be good. And we also wanted to cast locally and give work to people in New Zealand, and also kind of needed to with the pandemic. But finding a really, high quality and diverse cast, because we really wanted to cast authentically as well, was difficult. But the people we got were amazing. And then one of the directions I gave them early on, because I also directed all the VO sessions, that they all understood is I was like, look, this game is ridiculous and it's funny and it's over the top and it doesn't take itself too seriously, but you have to take it seriously. Like, your characters have to believe in what's happening, because that heightens the tension and the ridiculousness, makes the player feel cooler about the action. It juxtaposes against those kind of hilarious moments. I was like, you have to be 100% believing in this. And they totally understood that, and I think really brought it out.
Was it your first time doing like voiceover directing to something you wrote?
In a large scale, yes. I've done it on small scales before, on indie projects, or in e-learning. I'm an instructional designer, so I've actually done like hundreds of hours of voiceover for like educational narration and things like that. But that's a little simpler. That's either me or one person, just doing the script as kind of that narrator. So yeah, it's not the first, but it's definitely the biggest thing I've ever worked on. And so a lot of credit to our audio director, who is great, Jade Martyr. He's really awesome about it. And Mike, who is the assistant director, who had done some before. He's also a narrative designer in our company. And then the studio we worked with in Auckland, New Zealand, was really great. Their engineers were great, and the studio, Envy Studios they're called, they were really nice and just made the whole experience comfortable. So it was more like having fun. Like, it was big enough that it took 2 weeks and a lot of work, but it was like cozy enough and happy enough that everybody was just kind of in there playing. Like, our audio director Jade always laughs because the VO sessions would be me just like describing what's going on in the game, and then the actors, especially the one who plays Torpair, and he also does another character that'll come later. So I would be describing it and be like, okay, and then this happens, then it opens up and there's a missile going, and he'd be like doing sound effects. He'd be like, oh, I can totally picture it. It's all like, and I'm like, yeah, just like that. And then we'd like get up, and then I'd be like, okay, go. And then he'd do the line, and he'd be all in the moment. It would be great.
No, I used to do copywriting, and now I do it like freelance for advertising and stuff. And when I worked at an agency, we did a lot of radio commercials.
Nice.
So I had to write stuff and then go to like the voiceover
Oh,
recording,
cool.
which was fun, but probably not as
Yeah.
fun as this. Like working with it was just like for restaurants and for jewelry companies and stuff.
Still good work, and still
Yeah.
takes a lot of skill to get it across clearly in an engaging way and all that. But
those
yeah,
were a lot of fun, just being in the studio and also seeing the audio guy with his computer just editing stuff like on the fly, right?
Yeah,
As someone
they're
talks, it's like, whoa.
so impressive. The audio engineers were amazing. So yeah, big props to Envy Studios. They were great.
I guess was there ever a point where the game was different, like the player was actually driving the car, or maybe it even looked different, or it was always like this?
No, I think one good thing about this game is the vision was pretty clear from the start. I think this was one of our best games in terms of early on, we knew what it was about. Everybody had a shared vision for it. We had really strong experience pillars, like the bleeding edge tech in a retro futuristic wrapper was one of them, and everyone can feel like a super spy, but only a few can be elite was another. And the best of every car chase ever was another. So we all kind of knew what kind of game we were making, but we also knew that, like, we wanted to scope it, the mechanics tightly, so we could really focus on the experience about it. So it was definitely one of those games where the initial design doc was big and had all these other things where you could be like building loadouts into your gadgets and all sorts of things like that. But we pretty quickly after the prototype went, actually, let's focus on the specifics, because then we can really the key things, so we can bring that experience out. So yeah, it was a tight vision. I think the main things that changed were how far we could push it, because we had this big idea at first, and then we focused on that core vertical slice prototype. And then after that, it was like, all right, how much can we layer on? How much can we layer on? How many more ridiculous things can we add? Can we do this cutscene? Can we do this level? Can we actually add this weird mechanic? So it was really fun to try and push it. So I think that was a smart thing, is starting with a clear vision that everybody was on board with, and then also starting small and then slowly building up to that vision as we, found our feet on the project.
I guess what's it like to be, because you're more in charge of the story and stuff like that, what's it like to see it come together, and like you're seeing the story, but then in your head you might have an idea, and then you play and you're like, oh, this is totally different, or
yeah,
I didn't even think of this, or things like that.
It's a joy. It's honestly been one of the highlights in my career, in my whole career, just because the team was so great and they were so on board. So like, yeah, pitching a cutscene and then having the storyboards come back and go, holy shit, I didn't even think of using that shot. That's amazing. And then have the animatic come back based on the storyboards and go, holy shit, I didn't even think we could do it. And even things with tech, I'd pitch an idea where I'd be like, oh, I don't know, could we possibly do this? And the tech director would be like, yes,
sure.
No, I think I'm going to make sure we can do that. And then they build a new system and hack it together to make, these crazy moments like you're going to see in the next level. And so it was so joyful. I was never disappointed. I was always impressed with what people came back with, whether it was the tech team figuring out solutions to make interesting gameplay, whether it was the moment-to-moment bits that the level designers put together, whether it was the character art that our concept team was doing, and they were always more. Like, it was actually, for example, our art direction team who really helped and pushed for me to get the characters to change throughout the story, so they actually get like different art as the different chapters go on, and things change in the world. And so like that was the art team like really pushing that. And our level designers were, again, fighting from moment to moment. They were the ones who made sure that not just the set pieces were good, but every time you take a turn, that there's a cool jump there, so you do a flip and land over a car, and then transformed into boat, and just like every moment felt really tight. So yeah, everyone was great and just pushed it beyond, and everyone had this attitude of like, doesn't matter where the idea comes from, if it's good, we're going to do it. You know, we all trust each other in our disciplines to do the best as possible. So I just can't speak enough to the collaboration of the team, and any game designers out there going, you need a good team, you need a good shared vision, and if you can get a team who everyone believes in it and believes in each other, then it's just fun. It was one of the few projects that was like mostly just fun. There was a little bit of stress, but it was mostly fun.
And then PikPok has the Wellington office and one in
Yes.
Colombia in Medellin.
Yes.
Do you guys work together on things, or is it like they're working on their projects, we're working on our projects?
Yeah, a little bit of the latter, but we're trying to change that. So we've worked with them before. We outsourced some work to them over the last few years, and they did a good job, and we had a good working relationship. And also, you know, the people in Medellin are very good at building up community too, which is we try to do. They're really trying to build up the game scene in Colombia. And so we thought, if we bring them under the fold, not only can we, you know, they can help us by doing some important work, but we can help them by, you know, expanding their reach and helping other people. So currently they're working on most of some like updating some old code bases and taking care of some back catalog titles, so we can kind of focus on the new stuff. But I expect we're going to be using them more and more because they're talented people, and yeah, they really believe in building up the scene.
Okay. And how big are each, I guess, the teams in both places?
Oh, good question. I think Medellin is about 20 some, but I'm not sure about that. Maybe 20-ish. And PikPok is right around 200 right now.
Oh, wow.
So we've grown a lot in the last couple of years. It was about 120 maybe when I joined 2.5, 3 years ago, and we're about 200 now. So expanding, got a lot of projects coming. You know, obviously Agent Intercept releases next week, which again for me is such a joy. You'll appreciate this also, as you know, guy who's done copywriting and radio work. I snuck my voice in there too.
Oh,
there's
that's
there's one side level where I play a side character, so that's great. But we're also on the Netflix games platform. Netflix just recently, you know, launched an app, like a companion app to their TV app. If you have a Netflix subscription, you can download the phone app and get access to free mobile games. So we've remastered 2 of our old games that are coming out there. So Shatter, our old Breakout clone, and Into the Dead 2, our well-known Zombie Runner, are both on the Netflix games platform. And then we've got a idle clicker game in the works that's going to come out later this year, and a new IP, like a cat influencer game where you're like taking photos of cats and building up a family of cats. Which is soft launch in New Zealand and some other countries now, and it'll be out in the States later this year as well. So we've got a few different things in the pipeline, and another PC game in the works, and some other IP on the back burner. So yeah, a few games releasing on mobile and console, a few games being developed on mobile and PC. And looking at the partnerships, you know, with Colombia, with Netflix, and other things going forward.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Oh, and how many people, I guess, or what's the core team working on this game from like, the 200 people?
Sure. How big was the Agent Intercept team? At any given time, it was also around 20, 25, probably 25-ish, maybe closer to 30 at its peak. You know, when it came time to just kind of wrap it up and do the tech for the different console releases, obviously the team was smaller. But yeah, at its peak, we had around 30 people maybe. There were, you know, a core tech team working on the overall tools of the game, whether those were narrative tools for cutscenes and stuff, or, you know, integrating the assets, plus tech people assigned to the different levels. Likewise, core art, producing art assets, but artists assigned to each level. And we had we would be building levels 3 at a time. So we had 3 teams of like a game designer, you know, artist, programmer, or a couple of them like working on a level in different sprints. So they'd, you know, create the levels, and then I'd have to be working ahead of them, you know, pitching the next levels. And so it'd be a pipeline where, you know, it would be led by narrative, though within restrictions. Sometimes we had art assets or environments we knew we wanted to use, or a new gadget we wanted to introduce. So then I would pitch the level, take that to the team. And so art and level design and tech would work together on what that would look like, and that would move into production. And then I'd be working ahead on the next stuff, but then cinematics would usually be working a little later than that, like really polishing the cutscenes and things like that. Audio was much more there in the beginning and the end, you know, early on, to really do all the great music and the sound effects and help set the tone. And then at the end to do more music and the voice acting as well. Because we decided as it went along that there weren't enough original songs. So our audio team like doubled the number of original songs in there just because they're badasses.
Well, the music is very agent, like secret agent
Good.
spy movie.
Glad to hear
It's a
it.
lot
Yeah,
of fun.
we really worked hard on the tone. We really wanted like the story and the music and the moment-to-moment gameplay and the art to like kind of all match and yeah, make that like James Bond experience, but not like gritty James Bond or hardcore espionage James Bond, but like lifestyle James Bond and, you know, ridiculous set piece at the end of the movie James Bond.
Mhm.
But also mashed up with Fast and the Furious, where we were just like not
Yeah.
afraid to be kind of over the top and, you know, not be realistic about our car physics and things like that. Like there's one, there's a good moment when I knew we understood what our game was, where there's a later level where your fellow agents get captured and we wanted to show them in prison. And the team was like, but we don't have characters, you know, we can't show people. And I'm like, no, the cars are in prison. And they're like, so there's like a little jail and the car is just in jail. And I'm like, yes, exactly that. And they're like, that's ridiculous. I'm like, yes, but that's the kind of game this is. And like people have been playing it enough, like they'll appreciate it and think it. And sure enough, when we did all the user tests to that level, everybody like loved the car jail and understood that like, yes, the cars are the characters and the cars like go beyond physics and it makes sense to do this. And it was kind of a cheeky moment, but everybody really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Oh, and last year I talked to someone from Dinosaur Polo Club, and she's
Oh
out here
yeah.
in Wellington, to
Yeah.
Casey, and she said that there's like a cool scene in Wellington of like all you guys are friends. So I was just gonna ask if you guys all knew each other or if you were part of that.
Definitely. Yeah, Dinosaur Polo Club is great. The guys who run it sponsor a lot of the events, so they're always helping sponsor like New Zealand. We have an NZ GDC in August, New Zealand Game Developers Conference, and so they're sponsors for that and the Play by Play Festival. So we always see them there. A couple of PikPok people went to Dinosaur Polo Club as well, and you know that's fine. We have good relationships back and forth, so they just wanted to try something different. We were happy to do that. So yeah, always see them at conferences. Also, the NZXR, these great virtual reality company. James Everett is also like, yeah, doing really amazing stuff in VR, but also hosting local meetups of like, you know, game developers of Wellington and showing up at different meetups there. So yeah, it is a really nice, like tightly knit community. And I think people also get surprised at how many like good games are coming out of New Zealand because, you know, Dinosaur Polo Club Mini Motorways was one of like the hits on Apple Arcade. And, you know, Grinding Gear up in Auckland, like Path of Exile is huge and doing really well. And we also have Rocketworks and A44 and Runaway Play. So yeah, there's a pretty, I think there's more game studios and more decent games coming out of New Zealand than people realize.
Yeah.
And Wellington's a great place to be. And genuinely, honestly, I'm not just saying this. Should you ever want to visit New Zealand, email me and I will gladly hook you up.
Cool. Thanks. Are there any plans for like DLC or updates coming to the game or more content, or is just for
it
now?
Kind of depends how it does. Because we have so many projects in the hopper, we try to evaluate the business case and make sure that there's enough of an audience to make it worthwhile. So everyone at PikPok loves the IP. Even people who didn't work on the game or have worked on other games. I think it's one of the favorite overall IPs in the studio, you know, because of the really fun tone. So there's a huge interest to do more in this world and with this kind of tone and with this vibe. But, you know, we've been around 25 years because we make good business cases. So we'll see how it does on console and see how people respond to it. And we'd all love to, but we'll see. So that's why I appreciate things like this. The more people we get playing the game and spreading the word, the more likely it is that we'll do more with it.
Yeah. Or do you see, I guess, I know there's mobile series you guys have like Flick Kick and Rival Stars that it's like, oh, we made the football version. How do we put this into like something else? Because I guess it was doing good. So it's like, let's try to make a different version. Would you see maybe Agent Intercept 2 could be maybe not a car game or like it's a agent on the run or something totally different, maybe a different.
We did talk about that. We talked about kind of two different angles. One, we talked about, you know, what if it was the same game, but even more.
Yeah.
And so me and the tech director were pitching this like just ridiculous over the top story, like almost getting into like Saints Row 3 and 4 territory of like how ridiculous it was. But then we also went on the flip side and go, you know, it is actually a spy world. Like, would there be, for example, like a narrative choices style game where you're actually like the different agents, like, you know, running around and having to make difficult choices of who you trust. And we also have another PC game in the works that has some stealth mechanics that we're like, oh, could we do an espionage game? So the discussions are happening, but it's all just kind of what ifs and ideas percolating. Again, kind of depends on the business case, but there's definitely high interest in the team in doing that.
Oh, cool. And then I guess what brought you to New Zealand, since you don't have the New Zealand accent?
No, yeah, I'm as American as they come, but it's kind of a good story if you don't mind me rambling for a minute or
No.
two. So I'm a huge fantasy nerd and D&D fan, and Lord of the Rings is what got me into reading, and then from there to D&D, and from there to games. So when the movies were coming out, when I was in college and information was like trickling out about the movies, like in the late 90s and early 2000s, I was like on the pulse and paying attention to it. And so I was like, where in the world did they film Middle Earth? And so then I knew New Zealand existed, but I didn't really know anything about it. But then as I started researching like why Middle Earth was there and how beautiful it was, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So after college, I dropped everything and I backpacked there. At the time, with an American passport, you could stay for 3 months. So I just hitchhiked around the country for 3 months, like saw all the amazing sights, hiked on glaciers and trekked through rainforests, and like, saw penguins and whales and dolphins and volcanoes, and like everyone was so friendly. I had no money, but like people would just pick me up and let me stay with them because Kiwis are so friendly. And I promised myself I would get back. But that was more than 15 years ago. And then so every few years I'd kind of, as my life would change and my wife and I were looking at career changes or life changes, I'd kind of go, what's going on in New Zealand? Can I emigrate? Is there a job there? And that happened about 3 years ago. We were going through a period of change. We were in Texas and we were kind of like, had a good time here, but it's not really for us. What's the next step? Weren't really thinking abroad. We're mostly thinking in the States. And so again, I looked at New Zealand, and PikPok was hiring. And we just really clicked. The chief design officer, Andy Satterthwaite, who is really great, has a lot of games experience, and who also set the initial vision for Agent Intercept. Andy was the one who set that clear vision from the start. He and I just really hit it off, and he was like, we want to do more story games, and we're weak on narrative, so it's great that you have that experience. We need more like communicators and salesmen, so that's great. He really thought I'd fill a hole in PikPok, and so I came down for that and quickly promoted up to design manager, and now help support the entire design department. So I always had wanted to go to New Zealand, and I'm thankful for PikPok to bring me there. And it's been a good relationship. I really like the company. The culture is great. People are very kind. It's very transparent and open. And I feel like I fill a good hole there and bring some energy to the team. And yeah, it's been a great fit.
That's a really cool story.
Yeah, thanks for letting me ramble. Sorry, I love New Zealand, and I'm always happy to talk about it.
I feel like I have a book. I don't think it's here, but it's probably somewhere else in my room. But I have a New Zealand, I don't know if Lord of the Rings or Hobbit, like it's just a book of the locations.
Oh yeah,
because I saw it on, I think it was on sale probably when Borders was closing or something, and I was like, this is cool, and it's such a beautiful, like I want to go there one day and see.
They're amazing, man, because it is like that. I mean, obviously there's some CG, but like if you go to the Tongariro crossing, like you can see Mount Doom, and it is just this big black mountain, and like the red volcanic rocks, and just outside of Wellington are the forests where they shot some of the Rivendell scenes, and you can wander through these beautiful mossy forests, and you can go to the Weta Workshop in Wellington and see the original props. When I flew out to GDC, they actually have original armor of all the factions on display in the airport. So you can see like Uruk-hai armor and Gondor armor, like just there in the airport, the real armor that they wore in the movies. It's great.
That's awesome. And I guess I always ask people what they like to do outside of gaming.
Yeah, good. Oh, that's nice of you, man. I think that's a great question, and it's always nice to get to know people. So I'm a big tabletop gamer. D&D and tabletop games, role-playing games are my like first love. I'm also a theater guy. I don't have quite as much time for it now that I've moved across the world to live in New Zealand. But before I was a game designer, I was a playwright, and theater shows, and I would work my love of games into my theater shows. So a lot of them were choose your own adventure, where the audience would vote and the play would branch stories. Or I actually even did a live action video game play where we had like dungeon sets and puppet monsters to make it like a video game, and people would interact with it. So yeah, I love theater as well. And I like outside. My wife and I just really like walking in New Zealand and hiking and traveling and seeing all the sights in this beautiful country.
That's cool. I went to see Anastasia last night here in Miami at the theater.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
My girlfriend got the lottery tickets that she's just like, let's see if we get it. We went to Dear Evan Hansen a few months ago.
Oh man, my students love that. I was a game design teacher before PikPok, and that was like their favorite show. Did you really like it? Okay, they were all.
And we went in not knowing anything about it. Like
I've
seen some things where I like get into the music, or if there's a movie, I might watch it first. But that was cool to go in with both of us not knowing anything.
Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah, they were always raving about it, and it really spoke to them. So glad to hear you enjoyed it.
Yeah. No, I do improv here. I'm part of an improv theater.
But that's great.
We used to have, before the pandemic, we haven't had it since 2020 was the last one, because it's in January. We had the festival, the Miami Improv Festival. People come from everywhere.
Cool.
And there's a group from Minnesota that I became friends with, but they do like D&D improv,
Nice.
and I feel like a
Oh,
lot of
man.
people don't like it because they don't get it. But like I'm always like, oh, they're doing it, I'm gonna watch. Like me and a few
Oh.
of my friends are like, we're gonna watch this. This is awesome. I love
Yeah,
it.
there's a niche. There's a niche for that. There's a group in Wellington doing that too, and they're kind of popular. I'm from Wisconsin initially, by the way, so
Oh.
I've seen improv troops in Minnesota. They're good
Yeah.
people. Also a skill that I recommend, by the way. I really think my narrative designer should do it. Anyone who's trying to tell a story or pitch or even collaborate, like improv skills are so
Yeah,
important.
I started doing it for writing more because I love writing, and I thought it would help, especially to come up with stories and things like that.
Oh yeah, it's very
And
valuable,
script
I
writing.
really recommend. Writers and narrative designers and game designers do it. It's so valuable.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's,
So I appreciate that, man. That's badass.
yeah. No, I'm happy I got to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for
It was
making
a
the
really
time.
good
Like I
talk.
said, it's happy to help you, but you're also helping us. The more people who talk about the game and get it out there, the better it is for us.
I've sent you Hades missiles to... Oh, I can't launch.
Take the shot! You did it! The scepter was even more powerful in your hands than we imagined.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, use me as you can. And like I said, play the beginning of chapter 2. You'll love it.
Yeah, I'll definitely play that and record it.
And that's
Okay.
that's a good one. It's got one of my favorite moments in the whole game.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks so much for doing this. And have
Absolutely, man. Take
an
care.
awesome
And
day.
yeah, time to get back to the conference.
Yeah. Are you there at GDC?
Yeah, I'm talking to you from my hotel room in
Oh,
San
cool.
Francisco. A small group of us came out to GDC. Usually we send a big group, but our borders are just opening in New Zealand, so we're being a little more careful.
Yeah. No, I did the virtual thing again this year, but
Nice.
I'm thinking if I'll go to PAX or maybe not.
Yeah, PAX is great. I used to do so much PAX.
Yeah. All right. Well, have an awesome time at GDC.
Thanks, man. Take
Thanks.
care.
Bye.
Gotcha! Couldn't let you have all the fun.